All right, I'm going to do 12.2, frequency distribution and statistical graphs. All right, so let's go to the first page here. This is what we're going to learn in this section. Upon completion of this section, you will be able to construct frequency distributions, construct histograms and frequency polygons, and understand circle graphs. Okay, so the first one we're going to look at is frequency distribution. So first of all, a piece of data is a single response to an experiment. A frequency distribution is a listing of observed values and the corresponding frequency of occurrences of each value. So here's the first example. A number of children per family is recorded for 64 families surveyed. Construct a frequency distribution of the following data. So here's all the data, guys, and it's all actually ordered by value. Sometimes that's not the case, but in this particular instance it is. So if we look here, I'm going to make a little chart because we're going to see it on the next one. We're going to count, let me change blue. We're going to count how many zeros we have. So I'm going to put 0 here. And what I'm going to do is called tally marks. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 zeros. And now we're going to look at the number 1. How many ones do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay. And then we're going to look at how many 2's we have. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. One, two, three, so 3 more. Okay, so now we're going to check at how many have 3 children. So I have here 2, 4, 6, so there's 6 3's down there. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, let's check out 4 children. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then 5 children. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then 6 children. There's 2. 7, 1. 8, 2, and then 9, which I'll put over here, 1. Okay, so let's make sure they're right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 for 0. 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 for 1. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So let me check that again. So we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Okay, so 18 2's. 3's, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That's right. 4's, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 5's, 1, 2, 3, 4. 2 6's, 1 7, 2 8's, 1 9. Okay. So what we're going to do now is we're going to just write out, by the way, those were called tally marks. For frequency distribution, we're going to turn these into numbers. So next to the 0, we're going to put an 8. Next to the 1, we're going to put 11. Next to the 2, etc. Okay, whoops. So the 1 column is going to be number of children observed. And then this is going to be the frequency. Frequency just means how many, okay? So first we had 0, and remember we said we had 8 children there. And then we had 1. We had 11 children there. 2 children. The number of 2 children was 18. 3 children, the number of 3 children was 11. 4 children, the number of 4 children was 6. 5 children, the number of families that had 5 children was 4. 6 children, the number that had 6 children was 2. 7 children, the number of individuals that had 7 children was 1. 8 children, the number of families that had 8 children were 2. And then finally, the number of families that had 9 children were 1. Okay, so if you look at this, it gives us some information right off the bat. We know what the most frequently occurring number of children per family was, and that's 2. So 2 children, and there was 18 of the respondents that had 2 children. So frequency distribution can give you that kind of information, and it can also tell you what the lowest amounts were, families that had 7 children or 9 children, and what kind of if we look at this, there's a cluster of children between 1 and 3 children is usually the scene for those who were surveyed. Okay. So I accidentally wrote on this, so hold on one second. So the rules for data grouped by classes. So if you want to group your frequency distribution by actually class widths, the class widths have to be the same size. And they can't overlap. And each piece of data should belong to only one class. Okay? And it's often suggested that there are 5 to 12 classes. So for instance, I tell you guys that I run the triathlons, they group us by ages. So for instance, it's like 20 to 24, and then 25 to 30, 31 through 34, etc. Class widths do not overlap. So I just wanted to make a point to say that you won't have any overlap. So if it's 25 through 29, the next class up has to start at 30. Okay, so here's a definition that you can check out. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different classes. And remember they said between 5 and 12 is good. And if we look here, the class width, we have 0 through 4. So if you subtract 4 minus 0, we get 4. So the next one up has to be 4 units of length too. So you start at 5, and then you have 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay? And then you start at 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. We start at 15 through 19, 20 through 24, 25 through 29. And if you actually look at it, you have 5 numbers in between. Because if you look at the first one, we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, okay, etc. So the midpoints of each class is found by adding the lower and the upper class limits and dividing the sum by 2. So this is the lower class limit, and then this is the upper class. So if we take and find the midpoint of the ones I just circled, you're going to take lower, which is 10, plus the upper, which is 14, and you're going to divide that by 2. So I get 24 divided by 2 is 12. So 12 is the midpoint of that particular class limit. Okay, so that's how you do that. All right, so here's example number 3, a frequency distribution of family income. And if we look here, that's the data points. We have 46.5, 65.2, 35.5, 31.8, 52.4, etc., etc., etc. So the first thing that I would do is I would rearrange the data from lowest to highest. So let's see. And here's the rest of the directions. Construct a frequency distribution with the first class of 31.5 to 37.6. Okay, so like I said, I want to rearrange everything. So I'm going to rearrange all the ones on the previous slide. So hopefully you guys have that printed out, and I'm going to write them in order. So the first one is going to be, whoops, 10. The first one is going to be 31.8. Okay, The next one is 35.5. The next one's going to be 39.8. Then we have 40.3, 40.9, 44.6, 44.7, 45.8, 46.5, 48.8, 50.7, 52.4, 53.7, 56.3, and then 65.2. Okay, so now these are arranged according to lowest to highest, and that's the first thing you want to do. Okay, now the next thing we have to do is we have to figure out the class width. So if they're telling you what the first class is supposed to be, we got to find out how many units are in between each one. Okay, so if I look at that, I have 31.5, and I'm going to start the next one up at 37.7. So I want to take the lower limits. Okay, so everybody understands that the next one up would be 37.7. So I'm going to take 37.7 and subtract off 31.5. And when I do that, I get 6.2. So that's how many units are in between each, the low limit and the high limit. Okay, so keep this page out when we do the next page, because we're going to have to figure out how many fall in each class width. Okay? All right, so let's look at example 3 here. We're doing the solution here. So the first class, which they told you, because we got to rearrange that first and then we'll go ahead and figure it out. Okay. So the first class, this was the income, by the way. And then we're going to have frequency. Okay. So the first one was 31.5, and it goes up to 37.6. Now, the next number up is what we use to find the class width. It's 37.7. And remember, the class width is 6.2, so I add 6.2 to this. And if I do that, I get 43.8. And the next one up would be 43.9. And then I add that class width of 6.2 to that, and I get 50.0. The next one up is going to be 50.1, and if I add 6.2 to that, I get 56.2. And then adding the next one up, I get 56.3, and then I get 62.4, and then I go up to 62.5, and then adding that, we get 68.6. So basically, if you add 6.2 to the lower limits, so you can do that really quick. Okay, and add 6.2 to the higher limits. That's how I got the values on both sides. So you start with the first one, add 6.2 to get to this one, add 6.2 to get to this one, this one, this one, this one. Same deal with this, add 6.2 to this, and this, and this. Because the class width is actually 6.1. So you just want to clarify that again. So to get all the lower limits, you find the difference by taking and putting one up. So 37.7 minus 31.5, and you find the special value of 6.2. And then you add that to get to the next one, which I got 43.9. Add that to the next one, which you get 50.1. Add it to the next one, etc. Okay, on both sides. All right, so once you have your class width figured out, The next step is to find the frequency. So I look back at that slide where we rearranged the data, and I'll find that two of the families fell in the 31.5 to 37.6. 3 of the families fell in the 37.7 to 43.8. 5 of the families fell in the value from 43.9 to 50. 3 of the families fell in from 50.1 to 56.2. And 1 family fell into the 56.3, 62.4. And finally, 1 of the family fell in to the value of 62.5 to 68.6. And if I add this all up, I have 15 families represented. So it's a good idea to add up your frequency column and make sure it equals the number of your samples. Okay. So histograms, let's talk about that now that we know how to do frequency distribution. And actually, I think what I'm going to do is make this into a second video because I don't want them to get too long. So I'm going to stop this right here. We will pick up right at the histogram. So this is slide number 13.